She is a Franciscan from the Rochester Franciscans. What's cool about the Rochester Franciscans is that they founded the Mayo Clinic. They were actually the ones who solicited the Mayo brothers to come to Minnesota to open up a hospital. So they, although I think they don't get the credit for it, they were actually the founding body of the Mayo Clinic. The body of their habit is brown. Underneath, there's a brown belt, as well as a black rosary, which dangles. What is interesting is that the undersleeves are black as well. So the undersleeves were designed to be changed easy, so that if you, for example, got your sleeves dirty, you just swap them out. I was reading today while I was doing some research, you could also fold them down, if you were doing something more formal. It's interesting also because her veil is black with a really stiff starched white collar, as well as a really stiff band. And that all of this is held together by pins, so straight pins, which I think, although I understand that it was easy once you did it, I imagine your first couple of times it would have been really, really difficult to actually pin all of that back there. This is a Benedictine. It is from the monastery of, it's called St. Paul Monastery, located in St. Paul, sort of on the outskirts. Again, all black with a white coif and a white band. She's got a black cincture that you don't really see underneath this piece, which is called your scapular. The thing that is particularly cool about this one is this really pleated coif. And what's cool about it is that it's braided up the back, like a loaf of challah. I'm mixing my religions there, but it has this really interested braided. This again is also all pinned in, including into this stiff starched fabric. And again, she's got undersleeves on your side so you can see. They're black instead of, everything is black here. So they're black. And again, you kind of fold that up so that you can see. So this goes with our Benedictine habit. These are 3 additional pieces. The ring they would receive at their final profession, and then they would wear it every day. The crown they only wore on their final procession, and then some of them kept it, some of them gave it back, and they sort of repeated it. And then this is a prayer to be said while dressing. And so their words are a little bit different, but when you put the habit on, you say a prayer. When you put the girdle on, that's the belt, you say a prayer. We've got one for the scapular, one for the coif, so that's that pleated thing, and then one for the veil, which is pretty cool. I will lift up her scapular again. Okay, again, Dominican habit, all white. Underneath her scapular, she's got a black belt and a brown rosary. What makes this one unique, I think, aside from the fact that it's the only white one amongst our sea of blacks and browns, is all of the pieces that make up her veil and her gimp, which is also called a wimple. So this piece right here attaches around the neck like a collar.
Yep.
And then this piece kind of goes over everything else, which I think is quite interesting. It kind of has a flat, kind of graduation cap type, and again is held together by one big stick pin right back there. This is our other. We've got 2. Franciscan habits, which is interesting because they're really quite different. So our one on the end that was brown was a Franciscan. This is the Franciscan Sisters of Perpetual Adoration. Their hometown, or their mother house is in La Crosse, Wisconsin, and they are, because they're the Sisters of Perpetual Adoration, I think they've been adoring the Blessed Sacrament since like 1871 or some. They've been doing it for a really long time, and that just means that they sit with it and pray. This, I think, again, we've got the black and the white. We were saying that what is visually appealing about this is all of the different colors, right? So you've got your belt is white, which means that it kind of, you can see it really well. You've got your white wimple, and their veil, I think, is really cool. It bends down at the sides, which again makes it visually and distinctively interesting. This is also the only one of these to have an underveil. Sister Beth Lynn, who is a Poor Clare. The Poor Clare Monastery is in Minneapolis. She's a wonderful, wonderful person. I encourage everyone to go get to know Sister Beth, because she's one of my favorites. This is a Poor Clare tunic and belt and turtleneck. It's not a full habit. They didn't have a headpiece, but we have this picture of Sister Beth in her, what we would call postulancy, or even novitiate stage, right? So her headpiece is white here. The habit of the Poor Clares is modeled actually after the clothing that Clare wore. I mean, all of these are modeled after the clothing that somebody wore at the time of the founding of the community. But Clare, St. Clare was a student of St. Francis of Assisi, and so one of the sort of tenets of that is really poverty. So the Poor Clare tunic is really simple because it reflected the type of women who were part of that, and also the sort of charism and ministry of those women, right? So it's really simple, really basic. And the cool thing about Clare is that you can go back and look at icons of Clare from the 1800s, and her clothing is exactly what the Poor Clares wear. So nun dolls. First, I should say something about nun dolls. So I've heard about nun dolls from a couple of different sources, right? Either there are two companies, the original nun doll company, as well as what's called the Blessings Company, that actually manufactures and commercially produces nun dolls. And then I've met several nuns who have said that they have made nun dolls for family members. So it seems like there is some interest in nun dolls in general, in the production or the creation or the collecting of them. I know there is quite a few collectors of nun dolls out there. It's kind of interesting. If we can kind of walk through and take a look at everybody. This is a school sister of Notre Dame. They were founded in Bavaria in 1833. This is an original from the original nun doll company. And the precision of, I guess, the way that these dolls were made, there's an exact copy of the full length, right down to the fabrics. So you can see she's got a really distinctive veil. I don't really know how one would get that to stick. I'm assuming it was probably starched very highly. And then I can turn her around. The way that her veil is pinned in the back is really, really interesting. This woman is an actual replica of, can you be a replica of a person? I guess you can. This doll is a representation of Catherine Drexel, Mother Catherine Drexel, who actually founded the Sisters of the Blessed Sacrament. That was founded in Baltimore, Maryland in 1884. Again, this was not made by either one of those companies, but is a faithful representation of her habit, and I'll actually lift up her cape so that you can see under her scapular. She's got, again, a knotted belt with a really nicely draped rosary. This is the community is called the Institute Religious of the Sacred Heart of Mary, and it was founded in 1849. What is really interesting about this one is this coronet. And again, it was founded in 1849. A lot of people wore headpieces that looked similar to this, right? So this was not a particularly tall leap. Again, she's got a blue knotted belt with, again, her rosary. And I really love her little heart pin. So I do love her little heart pin. This is a sister of the Order of Mercy, founded in Ireland in the 1800s. I think she looks kind of Irish. What's notable about her is how starched all of the material in her wimple and coif are. This is actually her underveil, which is really, and again, she's really starched in through here. There's a lot of starch to keep those things looking. Their belt is actually made of leather, and this one, I think many of them, this one actually has the ring, their community's ring, on her right hand. This one's really cool. This is a representation of Mother Mary Elizabeth Lang, who actually founded the Oblate Sisters of Providence in Baltimore, Maryland in 1828. And what's cool about her is that that was the first African American community in the United States of sisters. Let's see. Again, I will lift up so you can see her little belt. She's got a different cincher or belt, and her rosary attaches a little bit differently. Her veil is particularly nice, I think. This is a sister of St. Joseph of Carondelet, and I think I mentioned when we were in the case that ones with underveils can really make the distinctive look of the habit. So here, in her veil, you can actually see that this is the underveil. So you've got your band, and then you've got your underveil, which comes under here, goes down the back, which makes this pointed, peaked detail in the front. If we move over to the table, this is a blessings doll, by the way. If we move over to the table, this suitcase is really, really cool. Sister Mary Craft, who's the Carondelet archivist, said, you know, we have this suitcase, let's take a look into it. And it actually is all of what I would call the accessories that go along with the habit. I don't know what the real word is, but I call them the accessories. So I'll take you through that. Here in this are the actual bands that wrap around, so they would wrap around your head. You would pin it in the back. I know, right? These are your wimples, also known as your gimps, and would go around the neck. This one's really starched. This one's a little bit of a softer collar. We've got two options of veil here. Your white would be for novices, and your black would be for sisters who've done their final profession. We've got that belt and the rosary that you would attach onto it. Again, we have a novice and a final professed version of the underveil. And so you can see, I'll lift this one up. You know, you actually would use it to make those pointed veil in the front. This is the coif, which goes around your face and ties nicely in the back. You've got your sleeves. We talked about sleeves when we were looking at the case. Here's what they actually look like. And you would use, so this is a sleeve, we only have one displayed, and you'd use that to hold your sleeve on, right? Kind of like is it bankers? Old-fashioned bank, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Yep. This, I think, is the neatest thing that we have here. In my opinion, neatest thing. This is a veil and a veil press. So the question was, how did you get your veil to have the creases, the folds that it needs to have? And what you would do is every night you'd take your veil off and you'd fold it according to, you know, whatever the convention was, whatever the procedure was, and you put it in this veil press. I'll use this veil as an example. Close it, snap it, and then you would put the veil press between your box spring and your mattress, and you would sleep on it. And that's how, you don't need to iron it, right? That actually would press in the creases where it needed to be. These are two versions of the Sisters of Charity of St. Vincent de Paul, and they were founded in 1633, and there's a lot of them in France, and they're actually called the Grey Sisters because of their distinctive habit, which was originally, this is sort of the original, this sort of gray, and then became this sort of bluish gray. I don't really know how blue-gray this appears, but it is sort of a variation. The majority of the sisters I've talked to have said that they made their habits themselves.
Yeah.
So I imagine that you would use whatever fabric you could. So for example, Sister Beth said that our poor Clare habit is actually made of like army surplus material, because that's what they could find, right? They weren't in the business of going out and buying fancy fabrics to make their habits. They would, do whatever they could find. These dolls I think are really, really cute with their little glasses. And this is our last lady in this exhibit. This is the Daughters of Charity of St. Vincent de Paul. They're all, again, closely related. The Daughters of Charity, and everyone will forgive me, their habit is sort of iconic because it was the habit that was worn in the TV show The Flying Nun, at least a similar modification, obviously made bigger so that she could fly. But this was the inspiration for that nun. What's interesting about this from sort of a historical perspective is that it represents actually what peasants wore in France in the 17th century. So this giant headpiece was what peasants wore then, and that just became, again, a habit is really thought of as sort of the like common dress of the people, or something very, the basic dress of what people wore, and simple dress. And so that's what stuck. Eventually, this piece, which is called a coronet, came down to become more of a regular veil, but for many communities, they had this very large veil on their heads.